I'd appreciate it. Oh, good morning, Senator.
Senator Rafferty, we are live.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to the 130th Maine State Legislatures. This is our second session. And this morning, we are meeting with the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. My name is Joe Rafferty. I am one of the chairs of that committee. And I'll just go through some basics for you as we head into our work session. Just again, keep in mind that we are in a Zoom format, and as that continues, the purpose of this morning's meeting is for the committee to receive information from all staff and others in order for members to consider the legislative proposals before them and to make recommendations or reports to the legislature. Only committee members and the committee analysts and those specifically invited to attend will be participating in the work session using Zoom. For those of you in the public wishing to observe the meeting, it is being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel and will also be recorded for viewing after this meeting has concluded. We're also broadcasting the audio of the meeting on the legislature's website, www.legislature.maine.gov. Again, please also keep in mind, as folks are a guest, if a guest is asked to come in, there's going to be a lapse of time where they feel like they're in limbo a little bit, but eventually we'll get here. Folks, if just my basic ground rules, and I ask you all to keep these in mind, is that we are doing a Zoom format, and I know that we're all sitting in various places, most at home, and just keep in mind that we're guests in one another's homes and be thoughtful of that in our exchange of comments and remarks. I appreciate that. That said, this morning's work session is on LDs 1780, 1816, and 1838. But prior to beginning the work session, what I'd like to do is give our committee members an opportunity to introduce themselves, and I will start with my co-chair, Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. My name is Michael Brennan. I represent District 36, which is part of Portland.
Thank you. And Senator Daughtry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. I'm Maddie Daughtry, and I represent Senate District 24, which are the communities of Brunswick, Harpswell, Freeport, North Yarmouth, and Pownell. And Representative Lyman, I love the bear in your background.
Thank you. And Senator Woodson.
Senator Dave Woodson, District 33 in York County.
Thank you. Representative Crockett.
Yeah, good morning all, and happy hump day to everyone. Ed Crockett, District 43, which is part of Portland and part of Falmouth.
Thank you. Representative Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Jan Dodge. I represent House District 97, Belfast, Northport, and Waldo. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Representative Lyman.
Good morning, Representative Lyman from District 74J, Livermore Falls, and part of Livermore. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative McCray.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I'm Dave McCray. I'm sitting in my home in Fort Fairfield. I represent District 148, which is 9 communities in central Aroostook County. Good day.
Thank you. Representative Roach.
Morning, everyone. Representative Tim Roach, District 7, Wells.
Thank you. Representative Salisbury.
Good morning. I'm Sue Salisbury, and I represent House District 35, which is part of Westbrook.
Thank you. Representative Sampson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Heidi Sampson, representing the good people of House District 21. That's Alfred, Limerick, Shapley, Newfield, and Parsonsfield.
Thank you. Representative Stearns.
Good morning. My name is Paul Stearns. I represent House District 119, which consists of 12 towns in the unorganized territories in Piscataquis County.
Thank you. Working with us this morning and assisting us through our committee work will be our clerk, Eli Murphy. Morning, Eli. And also you will hear a lot from our analyst, Hillary Risler, as we work through the session today. Good morning, Hillary, and thank you both for being with us. So as I mentioned, we had LD 1780, and I think we, in terms of our order, that will be first up on our agenda. And LD 1780 is an act to allow unorganized territory school staff to receive annualized pay. And so at this time, I'd like to open the work session on LD 1780, and I will turn to Hillary as she will fill us in terms of the impact and some details relative to that bill and in her analysis. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Senator. As always, I will pull up my screen to go through the bill analysis. Because this is the first work session of the second regular session, I do just want to mention to everybody that, of course, I will make sure to get these bill analyses out to the committee as much in advance of work sessions as I can. We will also be posting these on the same page where the public hearing testimony is, but for those listening who may not have seen it up yet, depending on when I finish writing them, they may not happen immediately, but when we can't get them up ahead or during the work sessions, we'll try to get them up as soon as possible afterwards. So with that said, I'm going to pull up the bill analysis. And I also just want to mention I am using two screens here. So if you see me looking away from the camera, that's why, and please understand that that's where I'm looking. But as Senator Rafferty mentioned, this is LD 1780, which is to allow unorganized territory school staff to receive annualized pay. One of the things that came up during the public hearing on this bill was this provision in Title 26, which governs the timely and full payment of wages. In Title 26, subsection 1, it provides that at regular intervals not to exceed 16 days, every employer must pay in full all wages earned by each employee. Each payment must include all wages earned to within 8 days of the payment date, and payments that fall on a day when the business is regularly closed must be paid no later than the following business day. And an employee who is absent from work at a time fixed for payment must be paid as if the employee was not absent. Subsection 4 of this particular section in Title 26 is an exception for school personnel, and it provides that employees of a school administrative unit who work the school year schedule may, upon written agreement between the employees and the school administrative unit, be paid for their work during the school year over 12 months or a shorter period as provided in the written agreement. And the written agreement is defined as including, but it's not limited to, a collective bargaining agreement. It also provides that a school administrative unit shall provide a wage payment option to school personnel who are paid on an hourly basis that allows those employees to be paid for their work during the school year over 12 months or a shorter period. The bill before you would amend this exception to the biweekly pay law to allow unorganized territory school staff who don't otherwise fit under that definition of employees of school administrative units, because those schools in the EUT are not considered school administrative units by definition, to have the option to receive this annualized pay. As a point of general housekeeping, I have included the link to the public hearing testimony if you click on the testimony link of the bill analysis. So if you're looking for any of that, feel free to click that link. As always, I try to provide sort of a snapshot of what you heard at the public hearing, but it's certainly not meant to be inclusive of all of the information and all of the testimony you heard. It really is just a summary. So proponents of this bill testified that this legislation is the necessary first step for the state to begin addressing a critical problem impacting workers in the 3 remaining state-run schools in the unorganized territories. That these schools are at a disadvantage for hiring quality staff and are struggling to find good qualified candidates to fill open positions and to retain current staff. That this option would give employees the opportunity to receive a consistent year-round income, which would also mean that they do not have to decide between foregoing insurance coverage during the summer months or paying costly COBRA premiums to maintain insurance. And finally, that while this legislation will not solve the insurance issue itself, passage would make it possible for the workers and the administration to negotiate year-round pay for these workers. And you did not hear any testimony in opposition or neither for nor against at the public hearing. There was a request for some of the legislative history. I'm not going to read through all of this, but really I think the main question was why these particular school staff had been not included originally with the school administrative unit exception. I did not find anything that indicated it was intentional. I think it was likely an oversight, and you heard some testimony during the public hearing to that extent as well. So there was a lot of questions about some of the legal issues surrounding this particular issue, and I did reach out to a number of people. However, Richard Colpitts, who is the Director of Education in the Unorganized Territories, also submitted testimony, and I hope you had a chance to read it because I do think it provides some info. Specifically, that one of the issues here is that the EUT staff are state employees, and so they fall under the SEIU MSEA negotiated contract. And he notes that if salaries are annualized as proposed, then employees' benefits afforded under the negotiated contract will now be eligible for the year-round state benefits. He said the EU teachers are currently annualized, the teachers are, but the staff are not. However, he did also note that providing the year-round benefits to non-teaching staff could have a significant financial impact on the EUT budget. I did not find that there is any state law that would prevent annualized pay. The state law that is currently preventing that is the section of law that this bill is proposing to amend, and I did not find that there would be any federal law that would prevent this either. With regards to the insurance issue, it does appear that that is more of a contract negotiation issue. I did also reach out to the Bureau of Human Resources when I learned that Richard Colpitts would not be available for the work session. And they indicated that really one of the big impediments here is cost. And they also mentioned that some concerns about, for example, that it may be difficult to determine annual pay rates for those employees who might hold multiple positions within the district. But I imagine that is also something that was true of the SAUs when this was passed as well. So I don't see any impediment otherwise regarding that issue. As I said, I don't have any preliminary fiscal impact statement at this time, but there was testimony submitted that both from Richard Colpitts as well as mentioned from the Bureau of Human Resources that there's likely to be a financial impact.
All set, Hillary? Folks, any questions? I see Senator Woodsum's hand up and followed by Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hillary, somebody is, this gentleman, Richard, is it Colpitts, going to be available today for questioning?
Unfortunately, he is not. He had an emergency, that unexpected emergency. He'd hoped he'd be able to be here, but he is not.
Okay. But at some point, I'd like to ask you some questions, I guess, on cost.
In terms of cost, what I can say is I can only tell you what I have read. I don't have any independent knowledge of cost, although certainly that's something that the fiscal office would calculate for a fiscal note should the committee move forward with the bill.
Yeah, I just wanted, it was stated big impact on budget. I just wanted how that came about. Why is that?
Sure.
Which you can get back to me at some point, okay?
Sure, yeah, I'm just going to find it in the testimony and then I'll get it for you.
Okay, thank you. We can move on, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Representative Brennan, followed by Representative Salisbury.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. And my question, I just need some clarification, and then I have a question. So as I understand the bill, what this would allow those employees that are in these three schools to annualize their pay if they choose to. Does that, do they still have the option of staying at 9 months if they want to?
What this bill would do is allow annualization through a written agreement.
Okay, so if 10 employees said I want to annualize, they could, and 10 could say they have a written agreement to stay at 9 months.
I think that would depend on what the negotiations are.
Okay.
I don't know exactly whether they would allow some people to do it and other people to do it. I don't know that much about that process. I do believe, I was just looking in the attendee list. I know Jeff McCabe from MSEA is here. I had also talked to a few people at MEA about the process for the school administrative units. But I do think that would come down to the collective bargaining.
Okay. And then does the health insurance, the benefit related to health insurance by going annualized, is that also become part of the collective bargaining process?
I think that's likely, and that's based on my conversations anecdotally with a few people.
Okay, and then in Mr. Colpitt's comments, he indicated there might be a, quote, an additional cost to unorganized schools of $65,000. And would that be because of potential pay increases as well as insurance costs?
I don't know that I can answer that, but that does relate to Senator Woodsum's question. If you want me to just pull that up so the full committee can see what you're referring to.
Yep.
So this is Mr. Colpitt's testimony. He indicated that he anticipates the bill would increase the cost to UT taxpayers by $65,777 to cover state share of medical and dental benefits to annualized staff. This represents an additional, the increase is insignificant compared to other program fiscal notes. However, it is a significant increase to the EUT and extends benefits with no increased expectation for work or service.
Okay. But at this point, we don't, there's not a fiscal note on the bill.
Correct.
And is that, is that going to be forthcoming?
Yes, so certainly, I mean, if the committee wants to move forward with the bill today, that would happen. You'd get a fiscal note, and the fiscal note would be brought back before the committee, before the bill would get reported out. Alternately, if the committee wanted to table the bill, I could see about trying to get a preliminary estimate from our fiscal office. But she wouldn't do the final official fiscal note until the bill has been voted.
Okay. All right. And again, just the 65,000 is quoted estimate. Again, once a collective bargaining process, you go through the benefits in terms of what finally is available to people could be different, and that obviously would impact the fiscal note. So that's just an estimate at this point. Thank you.
I may have lost my order, but I think it was Representative Salisbury, followed by Representative Stearns and McCray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions were asked, so I'll look forward to the answers that from the questions already asked. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Stearns, then Representative McCray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few concerns and comments regarding the bill. Some of the points made out by proponents were that this would provide consistent pay throughout the year. There's really nothing to prevent an employee from, when they have their direct deposit from the state, to just do some simple math and have that deposited in another account at their financial institution, and in effect pay themselves over the summer. It's whether that's divided out by the employee or by the state, it's easily done. Regarding the insurance benefits, I think that, we've kind of looked at where this thing is headed. Or the intent would be to once you open up that part of the contract, it would be a natural lead into year-round insurance benefits. To my understanding, for the most part, public school employees that are carried throughout the year by their insurers, but the individual employee picks up the full cost of that insurance during the summer months. I'm not sure that would work with a state bargaining unit. You have a different employer for those type of things. When you're talking with the state of Maine, you're talking with a large bargaining unit. If we were to move forward with this, I would suspect other members of that bargaining unit would cry foul that the state, the employer, has singled out a small group of people in our bargaining unit and allowed them to negotiate this type of year-round benefit or year-round salary. And there are many, many other seasonal workers under state employ. So even if a fiscal note is attached to this bill for only the 30 or so EUT employees, the long-term unintended consequences, or perhaps intended consequences of this, might be a far, far larger group coming into play. So for those reasons, I will not be voting in favor of this bill. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Representative McCray, followed by Senator Woodson.
Thank you, Senator. I do have a couple of comments. Number one, I'm basing them on the fact that I negotiated about 45 years worth of contracts with SAD 20 Board of Directors. And I think most every public school, I have no way of knowing if there are exceptions, but most every school basically, whether somebody takes it on a 9 or 10 month basis or through the summer, the insurance is carried through the full 12 months. Now, granted, that means that there are a couple of months where some people, very few, I suspect, would be getting insurance when they are not getting their paycheck. But the salary is an annual salary. So I would say that in the EUTs, I'm certain that their pay is not commensurate with most other regional school districts pay. So I guess if and I have no qualms about saying that yes, there probably is a $65,000 projected cost increase, and I suspect that's because all of a sudden people that have only been able to take their pay over the 10 months, 9 months, whatever, are now going to take it over the 12 months, and that it would be a negotiated thing between their administration, the state, and their bargaining unit. So I would say that I totally support it, and I agree that there will be cost increases if it is negotiated that it would be a year-round health insurance and dental benefits. So I'm supporting the bill, and those are my reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Stearns, did you have another question?
No, sir, but I've got a couple of comments.
Go ahead.
One, Representative McCray just mentioned that the pay is in his estimation is low compared to surrounding school systems from the EET, and I wish we had data on that, because I don't think that's accurate. I know up in this area, for instance, just the bus drivers, the pay differential between the local school systems and the state contract is in the range of $3 to $4 an hour more on the state side of things. And the other piece, he mentioned salary, and this is not about salary. This is about hourly employees, and I refer back to the section of law that Ms. Risler provided with us this morning. talking about the regulation where hourly employees need to be paid within a 16-day period of the work that they've done. I fully understand and I empathize with the school hourly employees, and were they in their own separate private bargaining unit, I would vote in favor of this bill in a heartbeat. But I think that the potential ramifications financially are too great.
Thank you. Representative Crockett?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hillary, would just love to get more clarity about, I believe Representative Stearns referenced that, there are some folks who have to pay for their insurance over the summer. I know, at least in my school district, I happen to know somebody who gets paid for 9 months, but has their insurance coverage for a full 12, and there is no additional cost to that. So if it's different throughout the state, it'd be good to get that clarified.
Unfortunately, I do not have an answer on that. And I don't know how much that may have to do with the particular collective bargaining agreement. I'm just not sure.
Thank you. Senator Woodson?
Thank you. Hillary, just for my own clarification. So if this bill passes, what it's doing is allowing in the collective bargaining unit, this to be negotiated, right? This issue. It's not automatically saying it is a done deal.
That's correct. It would allow the unorganized territory school staff, upon written agreement between the employees and the state, to be paid for their work during the school year over a 12-month or shorter period, as provided in the written agreement.
Okay. And excuse me, I'm sure you don't know the answer to this, and I don't know if there's anybody in the dugout willing to testify, but do we have any idea? Representative Stearns brought up the fact that there are many other state employees in a similar situation. How many numbers we're talking about?
I don't have that number. The one that was brought up during as most similar situation that was brought up during the public hearing would have been the park rangers. I could probably get that information from the Bureau of Human Resources, but I don't have it right now.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I know that Speaker Fector was in the audience, and he may want an opportunity to speak. But prior to that, I feel like we've gotten a little bit off track, and we're making some assumptions. This is my own opinion, statement, but the way I read it, this legislation is solely seek the opportunity to remove the impediment that prevents a group from being paid over 12 months as opposed to being paid over 9 months. That's what it is asking. And looking back in terms of legislation, I think that there were perhaps was something that was left out originally, whether it was intended or unintended, but I know in my experience and in my history as a teacher, there were groups in my district that were only paid for 9 months. And then eventually, even as teachers, there was a time we got like our summer checks and all one lump sum in June. And so it just became easier for everyone once we spread it out over 26 pay periods or 12 months, as opposed to doing it over the 9 months. But and my summary myself is, I think that this committee is based on the fact that we want to have public education equal across the board. And I think that passage of this bill would provide equal opportunity for public employees educationally related. I can't speak to those outside of education. I don't have any area of expertise, but I do feel that this statute is impediment to their wages currently, and we can remove the statute that prevents it. And I think it puts them on the same level in terms of opportunity as it does any public school employee. And I'll leave it at that. So I know I would support the bill. Representative Stearns, I'm sorry, prior to that, maybe Hillary, you have a statement to make, and then I'll go to Representative Stearns.
Sure, I just needed to make one correction to something I just said, and if it's okay with you, I'm just going to pull up the bill on the screen because I was reading off of it but didn't read the second sentence, which I do think is important to Senator Woodsum's question. So this is the bill LD 1780. So as I mentioned, it does provide that it would allow a school in the unorganized territory who work the school year schedule may, upon written agreement between the employees and the school administrative unit or the school in the unorganized territory, be paid for their work during the school year over a 12 months or shorter period. But it does also provide this final sentence, which says that a school administrative unit, or as the bill would amend, a school in the unorganized territory, shall provide a wage payment option to school personnel who are paid on an hourly basis that allows those employees to be paid for their work during the school year over 12 months or a shorter period. So I just wanted to make that correction.
Thank you. Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator. And if you're ready, I'd be prepared to make a motion unless there's further discussion by the committee.
I have Representative Stearns' hand up, so I'm assuming we have some additional conversation. Thank you. Representative Stearns.
Yes, before a vote's taken on this, I think people need to let what Ms. Rizla just said sink in, because that language in statute would usurp any type of collective bargaining agreement. It would be in statute that they shall grant that. So it just, again, an end run around collective bargaining agreement. And as soon as that's put into play, all the public school hourly personnel are going to go, wait a second. These state employees get that automatically. We had to fight for that, and some of us didn't even get it. So this bill's not ready for prime time.
Senator Woodsum.
Yes, Hillary, would you read that second part again, please?
Sure. It provides that a school administrative unit or school in an unorganized territory shall provide a wage payment option to school personnel who are paid on an hourly basis that allows those employees to be paid for their work during the school year over 12 months or a shorter period. So it requires the option be provided.
Okay, thank you very much.
Representative Crockett, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Whether we vote today or down the line, I am in support of this bill. However, I do think sometimes we got to look a little deeper than the bill itself, and the devil is in the details. And I think with respect to the impact on benefits, we would need to have a better feel for if, in fact, there is a fiscal note attached to this bill before proceeding.
Thank you. Senator Woodsum.
Thank you, Joe. I agree with Representative Crockett. Yeah, I mean, I just think we need a little more details here and think this thing through before we vote. So I'm opposed to taking a vote right now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Brennan?
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. What I was going to propose is I was going to make a motion not to pass with the stipulation, obviously, that it would not move out of committee until we got the fiscal note, and that we had Mr. Colpitts be able to come and talk to us at the same time that we reviewed the fiscal note. So Hillary, could you find a time for him to come before the committee?
Yes, I'll talk with the department to see when he would be available, and I can be in touch with the chairs and leads about scheduling that in conjunction with the fiscal note.
And that would be once we had the fiscal note as well. Okay. So I would move ought to pass. Are there amendments to it at this point, Hillary?
Not at this point, of course, with a fiscal note,
would be
the amendment.
Okay. So I'd move ought to pass as amended.
I would second that.
And Hillary, do we have to currently add Mr. Colpitts's visit to the committee to that, or just?
Nope, I will just, I know that that is what the committee wants, and we'll make sure it happens. And if for some reason Mr. Colpitts isn't available, I'll make sure we have someone from the Bureau of Human Resources in his place.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Did I have a second? Sorry, hand up, Representative Dodge. All right, I don't hear you. I think you're muted, or I got something wrong here, so. But it looks like.
Yes, Chair Rafferty, I made the second, but I also have a question, please.
Okay, thank you.
When appropriate.
I'll take your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question would be for the possibility of Jeff McCabe from SEIU to also be present in when we have this discussion. It would seem that he could very simply clear up the question about the coverage, the insurance coverage that may or may not be in the second level of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Salisbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted a point of clarification. If we pass the bill with a notation that we want further information, does that allow us with that further information, if there's something to concern, like to change the outcome of that, or how would that work?
I'll ask Hillary if she has knowledge of that. I don't have that experience.
Well, that would be similar to a reconsideration.
Right.
And the committee could vote if you would like to open it up for a reconsideration.
Right. But we will hold it in committee until we get the fiscal note and until we have this additional information.
All right, thank you.
I would note Jeff McCabe is present here today if you'd want to hear from him today. Otherwise, I'll certainly coordinate to have him back for the fiscal note.
I'll just finish with questions from the committee first, and then I actually would ask Mr. McCabe to make a comment, please. Senator Woodson, please.
Thank you, Joe. I was hoping to speak before Representative Brennan made his motion. With all due respect, I just feel it's a bad, how do you vote on something without all the information and then say, well, we could always revote, reconsider once we get all the information if we so desire. I mean, just, it's bad practice. And I'm very disappointed in this procedure today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I had Representative Lyman, Representative Brennan, and Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that I'm just going off what Senator Woodson said. I think I'm very new to this. I know I'm very new to this process, but I'm not quite sure why we would go with an ought to pass when there's been so many questions and maybe some clarifications needed in regards to what this might present for folks. And so I'm just kind of confused about that. It doesn't seem like we should be moving forward with an ought to pass when there's more work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wasn't Representative Brennan before me?
Honestly, I'm reading from left to right, and that's how you appear on my screen, but thank you. So where's Representative Brennan? His hand is down. All right, I'll go ahead. Representative Sampson, my apologies.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I would like Hillary to read that statement she read again, please, slowly. The one that you just read. Would you read that again, please?
From the actual bill?
Correct. What the current statutes are already saying, and what you were talking about, what we just had this discussion.
Sure. How about I just pull up the bill on the screen again and I can read it, but you can also see it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. So this is that exception to the biweekly pay law in Title 26. The bill as drafted provides that employees of a school administrative unit or a school in an unorganized territory operating under Title 28, Chapter 119, who work the school year schedule may, upon written agreement between the employees and the school administrative unit or school in an unorganized territory, be paid for their work during the school year over 12 months or a shorter period as provided in the written agreement. For the purposes of the subsection, written agreement includes but is not limited to a collective bargaining agreement. A school administrative unit or school in an unorganized territory shall provide a wage payment option to school personnel who are paid on an hourly basis that allows those employees to be paid for their work during the school year over 12 months or a shorter period.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a hand up. Senator Daughtry and Representative Lyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for Ms. Rissler. Did we get sort of an estimate of when, I know you said he had a personal family emergency, but when we might be able to have the folks we're hoping to come before the committee?
I did not get an estimate.
No worries. I know none of us have a crystal ball, but I figured I'd just ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Brennan.
Yeah, I just want to point out or just follow up on Senator Woodson's comment. Yeah, it's not unusual at all, and the committee has done this on a number of occasions to vote on bills when we don't have fiscal notes. And then we receive fiscal notes and the committee has an opportunity to review those fiscal notes and then make a decision moving forward. So I would just say, based on prior practice, the committee taking a vote in anticipation of fiscal note is not unusual at all. However, Senator, if you would like, I will withdraw my motion and ask to table the bill for further information. But at the same time, I just want to point out the fact that we're in a pretty short time frame, and that we need to be moving bills along. And if every bill that comes forward, we're not going to be able to take action on them because there's going to be additional requests for information. We're going to have a hard time getting through our work. So I do want to point out that my motion was in keeping with past practices on the committee and what we have done on a number of different occasions. However, if you genuinely feel that we should wait on this bill because additional information will be helpful to you, I'll be willing to withdraw my motion and instead ask that the bill be tabled until we can get the information that you're looking for. But I just want to point out again that oftentimes it takes several weeks or it takes an extended period of time to get fiscal notes. And it's, again, not unusual for us to take action in anticipation of those fiscal notes. So, Senator Rafferty, I will withdraw my motion ought to pass, and instead I'll make a motion to table this LD until Ms. Risler tells us that we have the additional information that people are looking for.
And I second that. Thank you, Representative Brennan.
I will withdraw my second. Thank you.
Thank you. So I had those hands, and Representative McCray. And-
Yes, I was prepared to maybe suggest tabling this, but what I am concerned about is the fact that if we table it, this will not move it forward to get a fiscal note until we do pass it or don't pass it. But if we pass it 2 weeks from now, I suspect that the fiscal note process will then begin rather than now. So if that's a legitimate concern, maybe just to move the ball along a little quicker, maybe it would be better to come back to reconsider. Now, I know we've had a motion and then it's been withdrawn, but that's just a thought that I had as the discussion was going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Daughtry, followed by Representative Brennan.
I'm sorry to be the procedural officer, but tabling is a non-debatable motion. Just want to that we're because my mic.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
No worries. My mic has been acting up all day. I just want to say, just as a reminder, not to be the procedure reminder, but tabling is a non-debatable motion. So we are supposed to move straight to vote after we've had a tabling motion seconded.
Thank you. So that said, then Representative Brennan, do you have a comment?
No, I agree with Senator. We have had a motion to table 1780 and it's been seconded by Senator Whitson. And now it'd be appropriate to have a vote.
I'm going to do it by a show of hands. And the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is to keep your hand up. All those in favor of tabling the motion at this time, hold your hand until you hear me say your name. Representative Brennan has his hand up. Senator Rafferty, hand up. Senator Daughtry, hand is up. Representative McCray, hand is up. Representative Sampson, hand is up. Representative Dodge, hand is up. Representative Salisbury, hand is up. Representative Lyman, hand is up. And Representative Crockett, hand is up. Representative Roach, hand is up. And Senator Woodson, hand is up. I'm sorry for that order, but that's how you appear on my screen. So have you got that? All those in favor, all those opposed, please raise your hand. Against. And that is Representative Stearns has his hand up as opposed to the table. You good, Eli, with the results there? Thank you. The motion to table carries, and I will, Hillary.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I have the right list of everything that people have requested for the next work session on this bill. I had a request for the Bureau of Human Resources about the number of others who might be in a similar situation. Request for a more fiscal information or a preliminary fiscal note, if I can get it, as well as to have Mr. Colpitts and Jeff McCabe available for the next work session. Is there anything that I missed?
I don't see anything personal, Hillary. I think it still comes back to the statute myself, but I'm good. So I will close the work session, on LD 1780 at this time. And thank you, folks. Hillary, your hand is still up. I'm sorry. Did you have an additional question? Okay, thanks. Not often I'm quicker than you are, my goodness. Thank you, folks. So moving forward, we have LD 1816, and I will open the work session on LD 1816, which is an act to promote labor education through the University of Maine system. So I'll call this work session open, and I will call on Ms. Risler again, as she will give us the breakdown and impact potentially that she has researched. Thank you, Hillary.
So as Senator Rafferty mentioned, this is LD 1816, an act to promote labor education through the University of Maine system. This bill directs the University of Maine system to establish a labor and community education center at the University of Southern Maine, focused on providing lifelong community-based labor education, research, and outreach, named after Dr. Charles Scontras. And the bill provides ongoing funds to establish the center. And the bill also provides additional ongoing funds to the Bureau of Labor Education at the University of Maine. During the public hearing, Speaker Fecto, the sponsor, also presented an amendment to the bill, which would specifically direct the Board of Trustees of the University of Maine system to establish and name the University of Southern Maine-based center, and instructs the center to work with both the University of Maine system president and the provost to ensure that it will operate under Board of Trustee policies and collective bargaining agreements. Proponents of the bill testify that there's a clear need for deeper workforce research in the state, and this bill would allow the university system to build upon the work that is already being done at the Bureau of Labor Education. That the bill honors Dr. Charles Scontras, and you heard from many who knew him personally. He was a UMaine faculty researcher who passed away last March after more than 50 years of distinguished public service. That the center will enhance the state's research capacity and benefit students, researchers, and policymakers and the private sector as they look for proven research-based strategies for workforce development. And that similar centers in other states are able to undertake tailored state-specific research products. You did not hear any testimony in position or neither for nor against. The committee asked for additional information in a number of different areas. One of them was on the financing of the center, and I did provide for the committee from Samantha Warren and from Professor Michael Hilliard, who is here at the work session today, a draft of their vision and proposal for the Dr. Charles A. Scontras Labor and Community Education Center. And he's available if there are questions on that. There was also a question for a comprehensive list of areas, programs, classwork minors, and majors regarding labor education that's currently offered by the University of Maine system. I included that in the email that I sent out last night as well. And I also provided this response from Sam Warren, who's the Director of Government and Community Relations at the University of Maine system. She had provided the summary by the Director of the Bureau of Labor Education about their current activities, and she also mentioned a few others. And then fiscally, she noted that the Bureau of Labor Education currently has 3 employees, and the annual budget has been $213,129 on average. And then she also provided some historical enrollment data, including for labor studies related courses. There's also a question about any non-university programs that support labor education, and I did receive a response from Matt Schlobom from the Maine AFL-CIO, and he provided a number of non-university related resources, and he is also available here at the work session if there are additional questions on some of the information that he provided. We do not have a preliminary fiscal impact statement yet. However, the bill does already include an appropriations and allocation section. This would include $200,000 to expand the capacity for applied research, ongoing labor history, and customized educational programs for the organized and unorganized labor forces in the state, and $500,000 to establish and maintain the Labor and Community Education Center at the University of Southern Maine. So you would anticipate that that would be the fiscal note on the bill. So I know that I didn't go much into depth in some of the additional information that you received, but as I mentioned, the people who provided that information are available for additional questions for the work session.
I have myself muted there.
I believe Speaker Fecto is also here if the committee wants to hear from him.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee members at this time? And yes, Representative Stearns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a question, but a comment. Very briefly, I'd like to thank Ms. Rissler for, once again, an excellent job in gathering that information.
Thank you. I would like to call in Speaker Fecto relative to the bill. He was one of the He was the primary sponsor. Just see if he had any additional information or comment he'd like to add at this time. Good morning, sir.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative Brennan. I don't have much to offer in addition to what your illustrious revised or analysts already provided you, Ms. Risler. Other than the fact that I would highly encourage the committee to adopt the suggested amendment. This language was at the request of the university system, and I think it's important that that the language that they have suggested be adopted into this bill. In part, in terms of naming, they were naming is done typically by the board, and so while I think we can provide them with some direction based on what we think the name should be, ultimately I think it's important that process remain intact. And then finally, the language around collective bargaining and so forth, I think is also important. So I don't know if there are any additional questions that you all have that I might be able to answer. But obviously between myself, Samantha Warren, who I can't see the attendees list, but she might be available as well, or Matt Schlobaum, I'm sure we can find a way to address any additional questions that are lingering.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, folks, for Speaker Fecto at this time? Again, thank you very much for joining us, and appreciate your time, and good luck with this moving forward. Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. And Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us today and for presenting the bill. And I know you said this, and I just want to make sure again, but if we move forward with this bill today and adopt the amendments that you've suggested, we've satisfied all the concerns that you may have had and the university may have had in regards to the bill.
Yeah, that is my understanding, and I am just going through my email real quick just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. But I believe, and it may be worthwhile to, if Samantha Warren is available, to invite her in just to get that clarity on their end. But I believe we have addressed the concerns that were raised on both sides.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it possible then? Oh, here she is. Eli will get in Ms. Warren. Good morning.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the committee. I would concur with exactly what the speaker just stated. We are appreciative of him bringing this bill, and in particular of him honoring our request for this amendment, which again would essentially direct the Board of Trustees, all of whom you have unanimously confirmed, to do exactly what the original bill intended. This preserves the trustees' authority to do such things as is provided to them in the system's charter and in a number of system-related policies.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions of Ms. Warren while she's here? No? All right. Any additional questions? Okay. Well, I see I'm sorry, Representative Brennan.
Thank you. I have one quick question, and then I'd like to make a motion. And Ms. Warren, given that we pass this, if it does pass, what's your expectations for how quickly this would be operational?
Thank you for the question, Representative Brennan. I think it depends on the timing of the appropriations that would come with this. As you can appreciate, given the financial challenges facing the university right now, the targeted appropriation to create this new center will be absolutely essential. And I envision that as this moves through the process, the University of Southern Maine would begin more kind of formal engagement of the various stakeholders. My understanding is that there has been a number of conversations with the AFL-CIO and USM. And I think once the committee moves forward on this bill, I suspect that circle will widen so that the university can begin preparing to develop the center in a way that meets the stakeholder needs. So I don't think it's possible that we would have this, up and running this summer, for example, given the hiring processes that would have to take place. But we'd certainly be eager to implement the bill as directed and can keep the committee and others apprised of that process. But I can't give you a hard and fast deadline given the unpredictability of the appropriations process.
Okay, thank you. And Senator, I see that Representative Crockett has his hand up, so I will defer in making a motion until he has a chance to ask a question.
Thank you. Representative Crockett.
Thank you both, Mr. Chairs. No, I was just racing to second the upcoming motion before any of my other illustrious colleagues.
Okay. So
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion ought to pass as amended by the university and by the speaker's suggested amendments on LD 1816.
Thanks. I'm looking for a second.
Would second that motion.
Thank you. I have additional questions. Let me look. Senator Woodson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have my hand up before the motion, so I feel it's a waste of time to speak. Thank you.
All right. Well, we have a motion ought to pass as amended, seconded by Representative Crockett, and we're ready to vote. I think I'll use the same method we did, but please remember that as you vote, we're going to do it, and there'll be two options. You either yes or no, but hold your hand up. I'll go through the list as your hand is up to say your name.
Senator Rafferty, before we vote, if I could just make a quick point. The motion on the floor was made and seconded, which means that it's open for debate and discussion. And I would encourage Senator Woodson, if he has comments or thoughts about the motion, the putting the motion on the floor does not preclude further discussion and further options available to the committee.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. And I'll
thank you. Thank you, Representative Brennan. I guess my thoughts as I look at the various bills that come before us and the many needs that the state of Maine has that need to be addressed. And for this to come forth, it just boggles my mind that we are spending. I don't know. I read the thing. It was like $500,000. Then I read again. There was another additional several $100,000. Probably be close to $1 million before we get done. That there are so many areas that we could be addressing, and to provide a major voice or mouth for an organized group, the unions which have the ability for their to promote themselves. It just boggles my mind, and I cannot support this action because of other needs. It just does. There is no common sense there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Hand up, Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to follow up with Senator Woodson's thoughts, I would agree wholeheartedly. And also, this is a session that we're supposed to be only entertaining emergency bills. I don't see this as an emergency. I will not be supporting it.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, folks, seeing none, I'm going to move the vote. And so the motion by Representative Brennan was ought to pass, seconded by Representative Crockett. So those in favor, if you would, please be sure to hold your hand up. I'll go through what I see and for both accounts, pass or not to pass. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. I have Senator Rafferty, Representative Crockett, Representative McCray, Representative Dodge, Representative Brennan, Representative Salisbury, and Senator Daughtry. All set, Eli. I didn't miss anyone. And thank you. Those opposed, please raise your hand. I see Representative Sampson, Representative Woodson, Senator Woodson, and Representative Stearns, Representative Lyman, Representative Roach. And Eli, what was the final tally there?
One moment, Senator, please.
Thank you.
The vote was 7 ought to pass as amended and 5 ought not to pass.
Thank you very much. And do we need a minority report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minority report would be ought not to pass.
Thank you very much. So all right, so we had 7 to 5 and ought to pass as amended. 7 not to pass was 5. That was a minority report. So I will close the work session on LD 1816 and note that Representative Brennan's motion does carry. Thank you, folks, for your work. I lost my notes now. LD 1838. Our next work session will be relative to LD 1838 and LD 1838 is an act to improve student access to post-secondary school transcript and diplomas. Call on Ms. Risler to give us her analysis of that. Thank you, Hillary, again.
Thank you. As Senator Rafferty mentioned, this is LD 1838, which is an act to improve student access to post-secondary school transcripts and diplomas. This bill would prohibit any public or private post-secondary school in the state from refusing to provide a transcript or diploma for a student on the grounds that the student owes a debt, conditioning the provision of a transcript or diploma on the payment of a debt, charging a higher fee for obtaining a transcript or diploma, or providing less favorable treatment of a request for a transcript or diploma because a student owes a debt, or using the issuance of a transcript or diploma as a tool for debt collection. Debt is defined in the bill as any money, obligation, claim, or sum due or owing or alleged to be due or owing from a student. Debt does not include the fee, if any, charged to all students for the costs of providing a transcript or diploma. This bill also gives the authority to enforce the prohibitions to the Superintendent of Consumer Credit Protection within the Department of Professional and Financial Regulation, gives them authority to adopt routine technical rules to implement the new law, and provides that a violation constitutes an unfair or deceptive act or practice in violation of the Maine Unfair Trade Practices Act. Proponents of the bill testified that many have experienced transcript withholding, even for minimal or unknown debt, and transcript withholding intended as an incentive for students and graduates to pay their own debt, in reality is a damaging practice that benefits neither students and graduates nor colleges and universities. That transcripts and diplomas are often needed when one is pursuing further educational or job opportunities, and without it, due to debt, means the increased earning potential is also lost. They also testified that transcript withholding is an ineffective tool for collecting debt and has a disproportionate impact on low-income students, and that the bill would not forgive debts owed to colleges or university, and it would not prohibit them from collecting the debt by any of the other means available to them. Examples given during the public hearing included things such as registration holds or regular collections process. Many other states have committed to banning this practice, and Education Secretary Cardona has also urged schools to end the practice. There was no testimony in opposition, but there was some testimony neither for nor against. Specifically, that a hold on a student's account allows UMaine students to help students get back on track, whether or not that means completing a degree with the UMaine system, and hopefully resolve the balance or establish a reasonable payment plan. That if this essential tool is removed entirely, it threatens the ability of the system to maintain affordability for all students and to honor the collectively bargained compensation for employees that is dependent on that revenue. That there are calls nationally to reform this practice, and UMaine looks forward to working with the committee, but suggests that at a minimum, individuals should be required to enter into an agreement with the university to discharge their debt before their records are released. That non-payment of debt is not an insignificant financial issue, and concerns that the bill would take away the Board of Trustees' fiduciary responsibilities and does not add any funds to the system's general operating budget. During the public hearing, the committee asked me to look into some of the other states that were mentioned that have passed similar legislation. I included links to those that I found here, and in particular, California is probably the closest. You can see this language matches very closely with the bill that you have in front of you. Both in the definition of debt, which was pretty consistent throughout all of the other states and consistent with what this bill includes, as well as the prohibitions themselves. There are also a couple states with some pending legislation that's similar. I will note that I don't know if you had time to look through some of these other states, and if you'd like me to pull up the links on any of them, I can. But they were not necessarily uniform. There were differences between them. Some, for example, mentioned defaults on loans. Some of the other states, for example, Ohio just prohibits withholding from a potential employer. Washington State has pretty much more detail. So there is some variety throughout some of the other states. As I mentioned, California is probably the most similar. Samantha Warren, again, Director of Government and Community Relations at University of Maine System, also provided some additional information, as well as some limitation of the data that she is able to provide. One of those limitations, for example, is that if a student is charged $1,000 for tuition and $1,000 for room and board and paid $1,000 on their account, they wouldn't be able to tell what that balance is from, whether it's from 500 from here, 500 to there, or 1,000. It's just the data is not broken down that way. That being said, the committee had asked to make sure that Ryan Lowe from the University of Maine System and his counterpart at the Maine Community College System, which is Pam Ramirez-Morin, would be available for the work session. I believe they are both here to talk more about those data points. We do not have a preliminary fiscal impact statement at this time. But certainly you asked for those who know those finances to be here today. So if there are questions, I'm sure they'll try to answer them. And I do believe the sponsor, Senator Vitelli, is available as well.
I remember to unmute myself. Thank you, Hillary. Any questions of Hillary at this time, folks? And I have Representative Brennan, followed by Representative Crockett.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. Ms. Ritzler, in the research that you did, one of the things that one of the problems that's raised for me in the bill is the definition of debt was not very specific. Did you find in the research in other states, whether it's California or Washington, that there was a definition of debt that was more specific?
Generally speaking, I found that the definition of debt was pretty consistent across the states and consistent with the one that is included in this bill.
So what you included in the summary, or that you just showed us, what was representative of the definition of debt in other states?
Yes, I would say so generally.
Okay.
I mean, it may not be word for word because of different drafting standards,
Sure.
but they certainly, California, for example, uses the any money obligation, claim, or sum due or owing or alleged due to be owed. It's almost identical.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Crockett. I think you're muted, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm kind of on both sides of the fence here. I totally understand, any university's position if tuition and room and board are owed. The other stuff that doesn't directly impact the specific university, I'm much more in a forgiving way. I still would like to know what percentage of the outstanding debt is in fact tuition and room and board versus other other buckets. And I don't know if we can get a deeper explanation from that from Mr. Lowe, but I'm hopeful we can.
Thank you. Hillary, are you aware of someone specifically in the wait list? You are, you're nodding. Who would that be?
Mr. Ryan Lowe, and I just brought him in for you.
Thank you very much.
And if you'd like to hear from his counterpart at the community college at some point, she is available as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Lowe.
Good morning, Senator, members of the committee. I think I lost a little bit while I was transitioning from the waiting room. So I think I heard the question to be how much of this do we think is tuition and room and board versus other charges? Is that did I get that right, Representative Crockett? Yeah. So as Sam noted and your analyst mentioned, it's difficult for us to pull those apart for exactly the reason that was stated there. It all goes in and you pay some of it. We typically aren't going to, okay, let's pay the library bill first, and then we'll, it's not some kind of sequence like that. It's just generally applied to the account in general. I could say just from my own experience, the overwhelming majority is going to be room and board and tuition, largely because of conversations that this committee and previous versions of this committee have had. The system over the last couple of years has really moved to, we had a pilot program at UMaine and USM last year where we took all of the various fees that are out there and we rolled those into tuition so that, and we did the same with course fees and all of that. So we've limited the number of inputs, if you will. It generally tends to be tuition, room and board, and then there may be one-offs here and there, but it's without question, the overwhelming majority will be tuition and room and board.
Thank you. Um, Any other questions? All right. I have, yes, Representative Stearns. I also have, go ahead, Representative Stearns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not a question for Mr. Lowe, but a couple of comments on the bill. First of all, in reference to what Mr. Lowe just said, I'm really grateful that the university has chosen to remove some of those categories, all the little fees. It used to drive me crazy to sit and go, why don't they just be like LL Bean and just put a price tag on it and send me a bill and let them argue about the in-house stuff. So I think that's a great strategy by the university. It simplifies things all the way around. I'd also like to thank both the university representatives, system representatives, and the community college representatives for really compelling testimony about really how empathetic they are for student need with students in debt. And they have many, many, many policies and procedures in place to work with students through that debt. With that said, debt is debt. Whether you contract a service or whether you buy a machine, you've signed a contract for that service or that machine or whatever it is, whatever it is you're looking to purchase, and you're obligated to pay that debt. And I think, as was pointed out in the testimony, the fact that you're withholding a transcript or a diploma is going to catch somebody's attention. And we also heard during the testimony that an individual, if they had that diploma, would go out and work and pay off the debt. Well, if that's the case, and they're a good solid candidate for doing that, they can go to another institution, gather a loan, pay off the university, go to work, and then pay off their debt to the other institution. And lastly, as long as there are headlines daily, if not weekly, in the newspapers about, particularly at the congressional level, of eliminating student debt, there's always going to be that cloud of doubt to someone who's about to put a pen to their checkbook, pay off an institution for a debt already incurred, when it looks like they might want to gamble and wait a year, wait another year, and see what Congress does. And that's a problem in this area as well. So with that said, at this point, with what's written in the bill, I will not be supporting it.
Thank you. I think we have Senator Daughtry, Senator Woodson, and Representative Salisbury and McCray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I have sort of three questions. One, hopefully it's just a quick one. I'm going through the file. Can you remind me, Ms. Bristler, did we hear from Micah at all on this from the independent colleges?
I don't believe we did.
Okay.
I can double check to see if they sent anything written, but I don't believe they testified at the public hearing.
And the bill as drafted would apply to everyone, correct?
Correct.
To ensure that. And also, I'm wondering, Mr. Lowe, completely trying to sort of think about the mechanism of using this transcript. And please let me know if you can't hear me. My mic has been malfunctioning all day. Has the university system, or I guess anyone else who's watching, been successful as an institution in leveraging collection of that debt by using sort of the transcript as the carrot versus stick? Or is it typically more successful because this type of collegiate debt can go to a traditional debt collector, correct?
It can. Obviously, we don't like to exercise that option any more than we like to exercise the tax set-off option. But eventually, you find yourself in the positions where you need to do something. We try to work with students as best we can. I've had lots of conversations with our registrars on the various campuses. There are things we could do better, and I could think of some of those improvements if the committee is interested in those at your discussions or when you get through your discussions. But we feel pretty good about the practices that we have. We feel very I think we fare very favorably to some of the testimony I heard the other day, the stories that I've heard in other states, but I'm not completely unsympathetic to the argument, especially with the folks who have the folks who have the debt, $100, $75. I think on one hand, you could make an argument that if you only have $75 in debt, then you should pay that. But there are circumstances out there, and so there may be ways that we can find a middle ground there if that's where the committee is interested in going.
Yeah, it's interesting from some of our other work on, I think, the commission from 2014, we saw on like barriers to completion sometimes. And often it was something like $75 or $100 is more of a barrier to students than the larger, $5,000 to $10,000 debts. It's heartbreaking and making it clear, outside of this conversation, just to be on my soapbox for a few seconds, how something so small like that can really dismantle a student's career. But yeah, no, I was just wondering about, all the different methods for institutions to be able to collect on this. And I think my third question, Mr. Chair, and I know there's a lot of hands up, so maybe this is something for a little bit later, but I would like to hear from the bill sponsor on sort of the definition of debt, especially in consideration of Washington State's definition, and just curious to get her thoughts on what is the best fit of that definition. So.
If I could, Mr. Chair, I realized as you restated that I didn't answer one part of your question, which is, do we think this is an effective tool? We do. It's not collecting everything. If it was working that well, or if people were calling in on a regular basis for transcripts and diplomas, maybe we would have collected more. But for the conversations that we do have, it does require people to have. Sometimes it's easier just to ignore that bill you have out there, and if you get in the position where you need that transcript, you need that diploma. We find that it opens up conversations. We let the student, you're not the only one in this position. Here's what we've done in the past. We can work out a very flexible payment schedule. We'll often release the transcript and then, go through the process of setting up the payment schedule. So we do think it is an effective tool, at least for starting conversations.
Thank you. I'll get to Senator Woodsum. I do have, and followed by him, I have Senator Vitale is on as well. We'll give her an opportunity to address one of those questions. Senator Woodsum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I'd like to have Senator Vitale speak, and then I'll follow up.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good morning, Senator Vitale. How are you?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Systems are working. Thank you, Senator Rafferty and members of the Education Committee. I'm pleased to be here with you again this morning. I just wanted to point out, Hillary did a great job of summarizing some of the testimony, but I did want to point out that there are some differences in how Washington State's legislation deals with this issue of distinguishing between kinds of debt and when universities can withhold transcripts and when they cannot or should not. So I believe most of you got this information from the Student Borrowers Protection Center, but if you will indulge me, I'll just read to you what it says in the Washington statute. It says that the law completely prohibits transcript withholding basis of debts due to fines and fees. So it distinguishes that level of that kind of debt. And it says then it prohibits transcript withholding for tuition-based debt under certain circumstances. And they enumerate them as follows. If someone is asking for a transcript in order to complete a job application, to transfer to another institution, to apply for financial aid, in pursuit of opportunities in the military or National Guard, or of other post-secondary opportunities. So they take a little bit more of a refined analysis of when these transcripts need to be provided to a student who's applying and when they have the option of withholding the transcript. And they also define debt in a slightly more nuanced way. And I know that's been something that has been a discussion in this committee. And I think there's a valid point to that. In spite of what Ryan just said about combining tuition and fees into one pot, that may make it a little bit more challenging, but I think it's helpful to distinguish between, you know, the what's owed to a university for their expenses versus a broader tuition debt for which student loans are playing a part in covering that. I think those are separate issues, and I would hope we can use this legislation to try to distinguish those two. So let me just say, first of all, I really appreciate the work that the universities and our community colleges are doing to provide information and outreach to their former students who come to them. Their track record is impressive, and I would encourage them to continue to do what they're doing. I disagree, however, that this legislation would create additional hardships for the university and result in, I haven't seen the evidence anyway that suggests that it would result in a loss of significant income to the university. These are already outstanding debts. I think there's a lot more information we could parse about how they go about trying to retire these debts at different levels. So, you know, I come back to the initial impetus for this legislation, which is a matter of fairness, equity, and economic opportunity. And it seems to me that a university, as our public universities already are doing, they're already doing the right thing in trying to recognize that people need to be able to move on with their careers and their educations. This is simply designed to ensure that it happens in all instances, in other public and private institutions in this state that our students are associated with. It's a simple matter of consumer rights to get information. They get treated the same as anybody else. They pay the fee to get their transcript, and then they're enabled to move on. So that's really what I want to say. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions, but I would urge you to look at the language in the Washington state legislation and see if that doesn't help answer some of the questions and concerns that committee members have raised about, you know, what kind of debt are we really talking about? And, you know, when is it appropriate to withhold these documents and when is it not?
Thank you, Senator. I do have some questions still, so if you'd be kind enough to stay with us, that'd be great. Senator Woodson, Representative Salisbury, and Senator Daughtry.
Thank you. Senator Vitale, does your bill specify or spell out, as does, you just read the Washington bill? I don't know as your bill does that.
It does not, Senator. Thank you for that question. And that's why I wanted to bring the Washington legislation to your attention so that you could consider if that's an approach this committee might want to take.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Salisbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, Senator Woodson, can you repeat the question? I lost you. I didn't hear quite what you said at the beginning. Just the Washington what?
No, I asked her if her bill, as presented, spells out the different allowances or guidelines on how diplomas or transcripts can be withheld. I didn't feel her bill did.
I just didn't hear the first part of that, sorry, and I heard her response, thank you. So a couple of questions. Well, maybe more comments. I find it interesting the University of Maine system does put all of the fees collected into one thing. So it doesn't sound like there's data, like if somebody requested how much, like we've requested, how much do you owe, say, in room and board or in library fees or food services? You know, like I know for this, our school committee, if we wanted to break it down, we could say, you know, for example, we have this amount in lunch debt, or this, we have this amount in whatever debt. So we have a good understanding. So if there's an area of focus, we can say, this is where we're struggling, or this is where. So I find that interesting. I'm processing that piece. And the other thing, Representative Stearns mentioned about if a student wanted to go to another, for example, you were going to USM and you had a bill outstanding for X amount of dollars and you wanted to go to SMCC. And he said that you could probably take out a personal loan. When you're talking about somebody that's 25 years old, first of all, you can't take out a new school loan that covers both of those. It's not allowed. Tried it with my daughter, it doesn't happen. You would have to take out a personal loan. And when you're 20 something years old, taking out an unsecured loan along that line would be really hard. And that's where I'm kind of getting tripped up a little bit on what the options would be for someone. So if you've worked with, for example, if you've worked with USM on a payment plan to repay your debt, but you're ready to start classes, and that's when the holdup is. You're not able to maybe get into a specific program and you're not able to start that process. You might be able to take some basic core classes, but you know, situations like that, I know that there's all sorts of situations wrapped up, people that just don't want to pay their bill or aren't paying their bill. And then you have people that are really trying, and there's no real way to delineate that. So I guess more comment than anything. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a list going on. We have Representative Stearns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out that my comment was for a student who was getting ready to graduate and go into the workforce, that at that point they could clean up their bill with the university or the community college system, and perhaps even their employer would, in some cases, a large employer would loan them the money in order to get their diploma so that they could, or whatever qualifications that they needed so that they could begin work. It would not be a transfer from institute to institute.
Representative Crockett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, I'm inclined to support this bill as is. And part of that reason is, although I totally respect where the humane system is coming from, I think a deeper dive and a better breakdown, possibly like whatever is going on in the state of Washington, would make this picture a lot clearer and help me differentiate what is and isn't a fee or a bill in those natures. So I don't know if that to get a greater clarification is possible, but that's just kind of where my head's at right now.
Thank you. Representative McCray. You muted, sir, I believe.
There we go. Sorry. Thank you. I'm kind of reminded of a person that has to go to jail and they can't get out until they pay their fine. Okay, which means I'm in jail. How am I going to pay my fine? I like the provisions in the Washington State bill law. I think it's quite specific. I would support this bill as it is now, but I would be a little more comfortable if it were patterned more after the Washington State bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Not seeing any. Senator, I'm sorry, Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. And thank you for the comments, Senator Vitelli. I'm looking at the Washington legislation right now that was provided to us by Ms. Risler. And it looks to me, section 1, lines 7 to lines 39 cover the issues that have been discussed so far. That provides a definition of debt and talks about the circumstances under which somebody can request a transcript, and also the circumstances under which a university or institute of higher education could deny a request. I know it's kind of putting you on the spot, Senator, but is that the section of the Washington bill that you were referring to? Or you wouldn't have that in front of you at this point?
Thank you, Representative Brennan. I do not have that in front of me. I was reading an excerpt.
Okay.
But I'm presuming that that is the correct.
Yeah, it's 39 lines, so I don't feel like I probably can read it at this particular point. But I feel confident that it represents those sections that you referred to in terms of definition of debt. And again, it spells out fairly specifically under what circumstances the university would provide a transcript or potentially withhold a transcript. And I'm assuming that, Mr. Lowe, that you haven't had a chance to look at that either.
I looked at it quickly. I only had a short screenshot, and I found it a little bit confusing because I thought the way I read it is that the Washington one allows you to withhold a transcript if it's for non-payment of tuition fees, room and board. So I'm a little confused. It feels like our current policy is more flexible than that, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding the 6 lines that I can see.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have hand up from Hillary as well as Senator Woodson.
I just wanted to let everyone know, we've been talking a lot about the Washington state law. It is linked in my bill analysis, and I do have it up on my screen if at any point the committee would like me to pull it up.
And just very quickly, Senator Rafferty, Ms. Risler, was I reading from the right section?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, that's close enough for me at this point.
I think you missed a couple definitions on the following page, but the bulk of it, yes, was in that section.
All right.
I had hands up from Senator Woodson, followed by Senator Daughtry, please.
Thank you, Joe. I don't feel we're ready for prime time here as far as a vote. And I think it'd be good if we could take some time, a day or whatever, to read over this Washington thing and to have a better understanding of some options out here, and also give the university a chance to look at that and hear their feedback coming back. So I would hope we could delay a vote here today on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senator Daughtry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think Senator Woodson and I were on the same page and thinking about the same thing. I know we've raised a lot of questions, so I'm wondering if it makes sense to table this to be able to get more information. Especially, I'd love if we could reach out to Micah, and also, we've been talking about a lot about the University and Maine system, but we also have the community college system as well, to see if potentially maybe they could come before us. I know we have Mr. Lowe's counterpart, but just wondering, there's a bunch of different things. I'd like to review the Washington portion a little bit more. So wondering if others would be amenable to tabling. I'm seeing nodding. So I think I'll go out on a limb and say, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I would move to table this item.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. I do think that we're watching the same facial expressions and nods. I think we're in agreement that we're seeking more information, and we're trying to do it on the fly, and tabling it makes sense, as it'll give us an opportunity to regroup a little bit and and clearly define some of the ideas we're throwing out at each other. So thanks for that. So Representative McCray.
I would second that motion.
Thank you. All right. All right, so the motion's been made by Senator Daughtry to table, seconded by Representative McCray, so we'll table the motion. All right, I think, let me look here. All right. Senator Vitelli, well, we're going to table it, but I know, thank you. I see Senator Daughtry, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do vote on the motion. Table.
Hearing pieces of that, but I know. All right. So all those in favor of, I think I heard the right pieces. All those in favor of tabling, raise your hand and hold it up. I see it appears it is unanimous of all those present. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in favor of tabling it. So thank you, folks. Motion is tabled at this time. And I know that we'll get to this quick because we were looking for some work to do this morning at our scheduling meeting. So we'll work with Hillary to get this back on our agenda soon. In the meantime, thank you, Senator Vitelli, and also Mr. Lowe for being here. We appreciate you helping us out this morning. Have a good day. The work session on LD 1838 has been tabled, and that'll come to a close for the day. I don't believe we have other matters unless no, thank you. I think we're good. So folks, I'm going to close today's committee meeting and remind Democrats that we will caucus following this meeting. And I believe I've got another meeting later. I'll talk to Representative Brad. Mumbling to myself, sorry. All right, so thank you, folks, and I'll see some of you momentarily in caucus. Have
Joe,
a good day.
are we starting at 9 tomorrow?
9:30.
9:30.
9:30, okay, all right.
Yeah, oh, today was scheduling, sir, that's why.
Oh, okay, my fault.
That's all right.